Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a dynamic effort lower day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below, be greatly appreciated. All right, over to the training, taking the percentages down a little bit, a little closer to what Winning recommends. We did 145 on the bar, 145 in bands on these box squats, and I did 9 doubles. I'm considering messing a little bit with some 5x5 though. I'm thinking of messing with some 5x5 using these sort of percentages on all my dynamic work. We'll see, it might be worth doing, especially with the percentages being this light, because we can maintain good bar speed through all of it and we can get it done faster. But, I'm going to have to get my GPP on point to pull that off, which is going to be happening a lot next phase. So the box squats, I did these at different camera angles so you guys can kind of see what my box squats look like. Now I have the bands a little bit forward on this because I've been adjusting kind of my band setups a little bit. They probably need to be a little further back, ideally, but I'm really happy with this band setup. This is letting me get good tension and run as many mini bands as I like to get all the way up to 145 pounds of band tension, which that's 2 Rogue Blues, a Rogue Red, and a Rogue Orange on each side. And of course, that's a 55-pound Texas squat bar, which is what I'll be using in competition. And I'm getting a lot better at getting it set. It takes me a few sets to get it perfect, to getting it set into a decent low bar position, pain-free, secure, all of that. So my shoulder health is really good. And I think the things I've done for shoulder health lately have been very, very helpful there. Of course, Clint Darden tells me when he sees these that he thinks I should be on a higher box than this, but as much as I like and respect Clint, I like the lower box. I like to try to hit parallel on the box with my shins all the way back, right? I think it's important for me as a raw squatter to do that. I think it's very important. And also we're keeping the volumes kind of moderate because at the end of the day, these sort of volumes should maximize hypertrophy pretty well, decently well, if not then close to, but with good recovery. And mainly anything beyond that needs to be GPP. So like I said, next training phase, we're going to see the volumes very similar to what you've seen in the last week or two, I think. So again, avoid overuse, avoid overtraining, rotate my movements. And I'm going to focus more on GPP, right, conditioning. And I'm going to have a lot more implements to do that with. That is the plan, tentatively. Speed pulls, I could have got these bands set up a little tighter. I'm trying to find ways that don't bring the center of gravity too close to the post, because it really becomes annoying for me on these pulls. Fortunately, I won't have to deal with this much longer. My deadlift platform, I have it already. It's just I don't have room for it here, right, at this condo. But I have the deadlift platform with the pegs and everything, which is going to resolve all those problems. It's going to make all my training flow so much smoother because there's a little bit of laxness at the bottom, and I thought I got rid of it, but I realized as I was doing it, it's still there. Did 6 triples on these to kind of get a feel for maybe what some of the 5x5 will feel like. But really, I want people to understand the 5x5 is really for advanced people who do conditioning work. Definitely not for everyone on speed work. Okay, definitely not for everyone. And we can rotate it through phases. But the 6 triples, these felt good. And of course, you guys will see I'm continuing to do more grip work. I feel like at this point, grip is really what's going to make or break me on deadlift, particularly getting well up past 600, because grip is what's starting to affect me at over 600. And particularly recently, like my grip is starting to get a hair weaker because that 615 last week felt a little slippery in the grip, but I did a 615 a few weeks before that with the deadlift bar where I held it at the top for a second or two and then set it down under control with the grip holding tight. So I've got to stay on top of the grip training, and I really think some of that's going to be making sure I do some fat bar work. All right. Good mornings. I went ahead and ramped on 5s here. I'm going to do a little more of that. Let's break the mold a little bit with what I do. I think some of my assistance type movements, and I consider the Good Morning an assistance, not an accessory. We can work with 5s and things, right? We can work with a little heavier weight. It's our accessory work. We really need to be 10 plus on everything, you know, within reason. But I built up to these, ended up going up. In the last set, I did 311 for 5. Went on a safety bar, that's pretty good. Now, if it was a different bar, I've done quite a bit more. You guys have seen me do 350 for 10 on the cambered bar. But this bar, you know, is a totally different animal. Totally different animal. So I'm fairly happy with that because it was challenging. But, you know, I think on some of my assistant stuff, we could focus a little more on a little heavier tension. I think it'll be fine as long as I'm getting plenty of higher rep work on the smaller accessories. You know, in this case, things like today being the belt squat and the reverse hypers. We did 10 plus on all that, right? And we're working on getting better at those. So I also decided again for the grip, and the first set felt easy, but then it hit my forearms afterwards, of doing double overhand on the axle bar deadlifts. It still lets me practice a hip hinge, and since it's done after all that other hinging, you know, I might get a small training response from it, right? You might get a training response from it. But trying to hold it at the top at the end and on the last set, you know, I held it for a little while at the top on the last rep. But yeah, I actually felt a good pump in my forearms from this, and that's the idea. We need the extra grip work. And, you know, lower body day, we might as well get some sort of deadlift in. And these are almost a stiff leg deadlift. It's pretty much what they are. Being done again with double overhand in the axle. And double overhand on the axle bar is very, very, very difficult. But it's a phenomenal grip tester and grip builder. And that's the idea, right? I've got to get those forearms thicker. We've got to get that grip up. That's one reason I'm working so much with hammer curls and reverse curls and stuff right now on upper days. Again, builds the forearms, builds the grip potentially, right? While still working the biceps. So that's what we're looking at is, you know, all of our grip work gives us multiple uses. But I've just got to get thicker, more powerful forearms. And I know they're thick now, and people will point that out at some angles. They're like, man, like your radial brachialis is big when they see my arm bent a certain way. But it all needs to get bigger. Okay, yeah, I'm good enough to easily grip 600 on a deadlift, no problem. But once we start getting up above it, you know, sometimes it feels slippery. That's 635 with a stiff bar because it's harder to grip. I mean, my grip was barely hanging on. So, you know, how am I ever going to deadlift 650, 700? I'm going to have to keep building that grip. And it's very orky. We talk about orc mode training. Thick, powerful forearms and grip. All right, belt squats, we just did 3x10 with the same weight I've been using the last couple workouts. I'm on no carbohydrate right now. Well, I mean, the amount that's in spinach and, you know, peppers and broccoli, that's my carbohydrate. You know, 20 grams or so a day of net carbs. Trying to bring the glycogen down as we get closer to weigh-in. And it's going much slower. I'm not comfortable with how slow it's going. So, you know, but at least I know it's glycogen being held on to. It's glycogen being held onto. So we've got to continue to burn that off. All right, have to. But these went fairly well. I felt a lot of tension in the quads and everything on them. So a good training response, even though I have done a little more weight. But again, next phase, we're going to focus on really pushing progression on all these 5s and 10s and all these movements. We're going to focus on getting even stronger on these reverse hypers. I'm going to have a heavier reverse hyper than this one. But these, I got 12 to 13 reps on all 3 sets, but they were very challenging, very, very challenging. Of course, we'll see if some noobs come in and they have something negative to say about my reverse hypers or anything else. And I'm like, you know, my posterior chain's pretty big. My back is bulletproof, doesn't hurt. And these are one of my main builders in my deadlift. And you guys have seen me deadlift over 600 pounds over and over and over this training phase, including even deficit work at 600. So come on. It clearly is working. And there's more than one school of thought on how to use this thing. I'm pushing for maximizing my strength on it. All right, because I feel it gives great carryover. And it does. Again, I consider this exercise one of the most important tools responsible for my deadlift being as strong as it is. And at this point, my posterior chain is probably outpacing my grip. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.